Shalom everybody, and welcome to Beit Tefillah. Today I'm going to do just a short video about head coverings for women. I'm not going to get into the whole covering of authority or the spiritual head or the covering of authority of a woman. All I'm going to talk about today is a question I frequently get asked that's usually something like this. Do women need to keep their heads covered when outside their homes or in the assemblies? This whole should women keep their heads covered issue stems from Paul's first letter to Corinth, where he wrote in 1 Corinthians 11, 2-13, let's read it here in its entirety. And I praise you, brothers, that you remember me in every way and keep the traditions as I delivered them to you. And I wish you to know that the head of every man is Messiah, and the head of woman is the man, and the head of Messiah is Elohim. Every man praying or prophesying having his head covered brings shame to his head. And every woman praying or prophesying with her head uncovered brings shame to her head, for that is one and the same as if her head were shaved. For if a woman is not covered, let her also be shorn. But if it is a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaved, let her be covered. For a man indeed should not cover his head, since he is the likeness and esteem of Elohim, but the woman is the esteem of man. For man is not from woman, but woman from man. For man also was not created for the woman, but woman for the man. Because of this, the woman ought to have a symbol of authority on her head because of the messengers. However, man is not independent of woman, nor woman independent of man in the master. For as the woman was from the man, even so the man is also through the woman. But all are from Elohim. Judge for yourselves, is it proper for a woman to pray to Elohim with her head uncovered? Okay. So in reading that, it seems like Paul is pretty much stating that it's a fact that women should keep their heads covered when praying or prophesying. He's not talking about when women are just walking down the street, going to work, going to the store, or whatever. It's just praying or prophesying. Let's read those two verses where he wrote about it again. And let's read verse 5. And every woman praying or prophesying with her head uncovered brings shame to her head. In verse 13, is it proper for a woman to pray to Elohim with her head uncovered? So this is just about praying and prophesying. This isn't anything else. However, everything has to be checked against the Torah because Paul cannot add commandments, okay? And there is absolutely nothing in the Torah. There is no commandment whatsoever about a woman keeping her head physically covered at any time. Nothing in it at all. Okay? Paul cannot have simply have added a command. And we know that from reading something like Deuteronomy 4:2. Do not add to the word which I command you, and do not take away from it, so as to guard the commands of Yahuwah your Elohim, which I am commanding you. The only commandment for any type of head covering for anybody was just given to the high priest. Nobody else. Not anybody else. And we'll read about it in Exodus 29, 5-7. And you shall take the garments, and you shall put it on Aharon, who was the high priest at the time, the long shirt and the robe of the shoulder garment, and the shoulder garment and the breastplate, and shall gird him with the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, and shall put the turban on his head, and shall put the set-apart sign of dedication on the turban, and shall take the anointing oil and pour it on his head, and anoint him. So that was the only person, according to Torah, required to wear a head covering. That's it, just the high priest. Well, let's read again the first part of Paul's letter, verse number 2, and this kind of tells the story. 1 Corinthians 11:2, and I praise you, brothers, that you remember me in every way and keep the traditions as I delivered them to you. And there it is. Paul was encouraging them to keep traditions. Paul was also stating his opinion and telling people to reckon it for themselves, as we read in verse 13 where he wrote, judge for yourselves. Is it proper for a woman to pray to Elohim with her head uncovered? Now he's not saying Elohim has said. He says judge for yourselves. So there's going to be, different customs in different areas. Okay? A woman's head covering is merely a tradition. It's a Hebraic custom, and that's it. Nothing more, because it's not a commandment, okay? I personally kind of like it if I see a Torah keeping woman's head covered, okay? In this ever, increasingly in wicked world, it's kind of nice to see some modesty. That sets us apart. My wife doesn't cover her head all the time. She has once in a while, but not all the time. She doesn't have to, because it's not a commandment. And we need to remember that. We can't add to it or take away from it. And just because Paul is delivering some tradition, that doesn't mean that all the Torah pursuant women now need to run around and think they need to keep their heads covered, when first of all he was just saying it was just when praying or prophesying. Okay? Not just every day walking around. It's not a commandment. It was a tradition for them to do. It's a matter of choice. Okay? So I hope this quick little video answered the question, and I hope it was a blessing to you. Thanks for watching. Shalom from all of us here at Beit Tefillah Productions. Everybody be blessed and have a wonderful day.